I am NetMoverSitan. Time to make a start on the lore on Chapter 8, starting with Act 1. Chapter 8 is set in year 985-01. But let's go over what's happened between Chapter 7 and now. The past isn't easy to bury, not even for the more ancient beings of the city, as the damned dozen would find out when they were sent into La Mancha Land, an amusement park from over 200 years ago that was home to blood fiends, which was originally a place where humans and blood fiends could coexist. But it was doomed from the start, where it was discovered that Don Quixote was actually Sancho, the second kindred, one of first kindred Don Quixote's blood fiend daughters, who was sent away after the other blood fiends rebelled against him. She came back, and after fighting their way through La Mancha Land and allying with Jia Sichun, Hong Lu's younger sister, Sancho was unbound. They then discovered that the golden bar was impaled in the first kindred's chest. Then, when the Fathoms of Ego opened up and the history was revealed to Dante and his 11, after fighting abnormalities, corroded beings, and even Pecatula, they were forced to fight the strongest of the blood fiends. Except for the first kindred, of course. After they were defeated, Sancho was the last line of defense. But even she was defeated and was reminded of what made life meaningful, and so she turned against the first kindred, who decided to fight them personally. The damned dozen put up a good fight, but they were no match for him. But Sancho was able to resist, protecting Dante from being killed. They dueled, and Sancho emerged victorious. Although it was a Pyrrhic victory for Sancho, who took on the role of Don Quixote willingly. Then she took part in the checkup that took her and the others to Limbus Company HQ, which involved an experimental portal and an experiment where her blood fiend nature was unbound again. But since she's the last surviving member of her family, the bloodthirst was insanity-inducing, requiring Virgilius, the Red Gaze, to intervene. After she assisted the chief researcher Hodenheim to revert from deliberately distorting via Monolith, who was revealed to be another survivor of the fall of the Lobotomy Corporation, they came back to their journey, and after taking care of Walpurgis Night, where they were within the Book of the Full Stop Office, where they learned of a distorted version of events involving the Church of Gears. Then dealing with the fifth refraction line, where they fought the sleeping bag of the bygone day, or rather a bygone day, Der Fuschus and the 400 Roses. Then, at the turn of year 985, the previous events being the final days of year 984, they arrived at District 8, Hongyuan, Hong Lu's home district. It was clear that he was next. On the way, they met with Sard and Pilot, who handed them over to Queen Tao, a former servant of Hong Lu's family, who would direct them to their accommodation where they would be staying for the night, while Virgilius attended a meeting that he was forced to attend as well as find a route for the bus to go. On the way there, they were attacked by multiple assailants. When they got to the Kazan that Queen Tao ran, they met Jia Sichun and her attendant Wei. This Kazan turned out to be a trap set by Shi Jihua, a rival to the family hierarch seats, who sought to eliminate two possible competitors. He sent the Haishu pack that he had to try and take them down. Then middle big brother Ricardo appeared to finish what he failed to do in the Great Lake. But then the sweepers swarmed the area, as the Kazan was not an official residential structure. So while Shi Jihua and the Haishu pack retreated to a safe distance, the others fought them off, with the middle being thrown away. Yes, thrown far away, after the buildings within District 8 were restructuring. After the night in the back streets was over, Shi Jihua appeared to finish off any that remained, but the one that lent him the Haishu pack appeared, and decided to have his head cut off. It was Jia Qiu, along with Zigong, Zilu being the one in charge of that Haishu pack. He apparently didn't see any threat in Jia Bayu and Jia Zichun. So after that, and he and his allies left them unharmed, Jia Sichun offered an alliance with Limbus Company, which they accepted, not knowing that management had decided to make Honglu a candidate instead of her, which her off. We continue not long after this point in the story. Chapter 8 starts with a passage from Song of the Burial Flowers, which is a traditional Chinese orchestral suite, based on the source material that this chapter is based on. I'll save the spoilers of the source material for the end of Act 3, as it will need to compare all of Chapter 8 to the source material, and it would reveal some significant spoilers, so I'd rather not do that too soon. As for this passage, it goes like this. Flowers wilt, petals fall, a drizzle of blossoms sky blotting. Colours fade, fragrance dies, but who shall mourn their passing? To the garden I go, in hand a flower rake, only to pace, lest crushed the scattered blossoms I make. Thus in this troubled world I breathe, to shut my eyes is my sole reprieve. We then find ourselves at Dagyuan Yuan Banquet Hall, where Jia Mu, the hierarch of Hongguan, District 8, H-Corps, is greeting little Bayu, understanding that he must have walked and toiled tirelessly on his journey home. Honglu told his grandmother that he wouldn't say that he suffered much, his days were always filled with new and interesting things to see. Liar! You died over and over again. Many of those deaths were agony for you, and the others, and also Dante when they brought you back. Meanwhile, Ishmael was asking what they were talking about over there. They were sitting so far apart that she could hardly hear them, asking if this was even a dining table. She can't even see who's sitting on the other side of there. Then a busy-looking servant asked if anything was bothering them, offering to help them as a humble servant. Heathcliff was annoyed at him, telling him that there's something bothering him. They're in the middle of a meal, asking if he can please stop. Sinclair, nervous of Heathcliff causing trouble for them, interrupted him by saying, "Nothing was bothering them at all, everything's good." Then Lady Wang asked Bayu if he would introduce his new friends. Gregor was nervous, not knowing how to act in front of another's parents, asking where should he look, asking if it's the appropriate size for a polite smile, not wanting to come up as too smarmy. Honglu wasn't too concerned, telling him to think of it as his own place and enjoy his time there. Roger was greatly thankful for that. Then she told him that she could hardly relax there. She might get lost looking for a cup of water. Honglu tried to reassure her that there were stray people shelters located all around the house for that. Their servants visit them once a month to collect anyone who's unfortunately gotten lost, if they're still alive. Sinclair thought that it was a joke, laughing nervously. Honglu was glad they enjoyed that, but it wasn't a joke. I suspect that those found dead were left in the border of the nest for the sweepers to dispose of. Gisang had to ask him. He saw no other siblings there. This was odd to him, as this was a welcome party for his return. This Jia Zichun off, telling them that it's her welcoming party too. Besides, what makes them think that they'd ever want to see their stupid faces? Just to get mad? Yeah, this family is dysfunctional at best, and outright toxic at worst. At least from what we've heard. It's been 10 years since they've even shared a meal together. Then telling them not to even think about chatting them up, asking if they forgot what she said earlier. There was nothing between them anymore. They were enemies. Roger asking if she just initiated a conversation. Then we switched back to Lady Wang, who was Honglu's mother. She was glad that her son, Baiyu, had returned as a man who could now carry his own weight, and unharmed too. Then she asked when he was planning to depart again. Honglu then told her that nothing had been decided yet. Yeah, he goes when he's told to go, which will be when he deals with his unfinished business in District 8. Ishmael's unsure of what to say. Lady Wang was concerned that were his stay there to be prolonged, he might fade before his duties were completed, asking the venerable Jia Mu if she agreed. Jia Mu indeed did, seeing Baiyu as their precious, peerless treasure, advising that he not stay long in this mundane world, to leave when the time is right to fulfill his worth. Honglu understood what his grandmother and mother meant. His tranquil, perpetual smile remained through that whole conversation, where despite his years of wandering, his family was obviously pushing to make him leave as soon as possible. He was unaffected, as though he was expecting this gaudy yet hollow welcome. Dante was unsure of what to say about this passive attitude, having no choice but to watch. Then we go back to a few hours ago, not long after Jia Zichun was betrayed by those she briefly allied with. Without them intending to, of course. She was silent. Saud announced that the palanquin would be there soon, which is a covered wheelless vehicle for passengers in India and East Asia. Roger seeing this is cool, sounding like a fancy ride, asking if it was super to Gregor. Gregor agreed, asking Saud if they're getting one to ride all the way to the mansion. Dante saw them as a comedy pair, making desperate attempts. Efforts even to lighten the mood, which was needed that day, even though they failed miserably. Saud confirmed this, as they and Jia Zichun will be heading to Dagyuan Yuan, or Grandview Garden, where one of the most prominent families of the district resides. Dante asked if they sent one to pick them up. Does that mean that Honglu's family already know that he'll be participating in the family hierarch war? Faust doesn't think so. It was likely why management waited until the last minute to relay that order for him to participate. It was to minimize information leakage. The palanquin was merely there as a gesture of welcome for Honglu and Jia Sichun's return. Sard added that it meant that only the invited, such as Honglu, Jia Sichun, and their factions, can ride it to Dagyuan Yuan. Unfortunately, it means that the before team, Virgilius and Charon, cannot join them. Honglu saw it as unfortunate. It would have been nice for them to all go together. Jia Sichun saw it as petty of them, as expected. Would it kill the seniors of the family to house a handful more people in that humongous park of a house? They'd not notice the difference. Sal saw this as touching, as she might miss them too. Jia Sichun was not impressed by her words being said to her face after that shameless backstabbing. Sal felt awkward. Then she asked the others if any of them even comprehend what it meant to participate in the family hierarch war. Honglu gave nothing away. She angrily asked if they even understood why they call it a war, when the official name for it was an evaluation. They'll be risking their lives getting involved in that. Once they get in, they'll be stalked at every turn by people looking to kill them. Jia Sichun, the Damned doesn't call that Tuesday. She includes herself among those that would desire to do so. Dante was silent at this. She also reminded them of how Wei saved their life back at the fake Kazan, asking them to imagine that same scenario, except this time, it's Wei who would be there to kill them. Wei told them in advance that it's truly regrettable. He didn't wish to fight any of them, but his cold and intense glare told them that just because he didn't wish to fight them, as a retainer of Jia Sichun, he would have to. His hands were tied. Sinclair understood the situation, looking more like he's about to himself more than usual. Jia Sichun informed them that she's also a target. They can stab her in the back again. Literally, this time. Okay, the first time wasn't their fault. I mean, how were they supposed to know what management would decide? I mean, Sinclair would never dream of anything like that. She ignored him and looked straight towards Honglu, reminding him that this was the last chance to change his mind. She didn't invite him to her faction with a light heart. Besides, the family hierarch war isn't something that he can just flippantly decide to participate. Honglu knows the life she lived. He grew up hearing the countless tales about it, just as she did. So the weight that they're feeling must be the same. She looked at Honglu as if he was a fool, seeing that it's where their tenuous alliance really ends. Not that it mattered, it dragged on a little more than a temporary alliance forged out of convenience should be. It's just going back to how things used to be. This was fine by her. It's enough talk with him. Honglu respected this as if this is what she wanted. But before she left, which stopped her, he asked her not to tell the others that he'll be participating, wanting to keep it a secret for now. This was exasperating to her, demanding that he tell her one reason why she should do that favor now. Dante saw that she might say that she doesn't care. She was hurt by this as she glared at Honglu. biting her lower lip. She then strode right up to him. This concerned Dante. Jia Sichun asked if it was even his call. Was he just following orders? Gesturing to the others, indicating that she understood that this might not be his own choice. He told her that his participation in the family hierarchy war was already decided. If she wanted to know why, then he asked her if she believed that his choices carried any significant meaning. This was apparently not the first time she heard this topic of conversation, asking if he already knew what participation meant. But he had no idea why she'd even ask him something like that. She lacked the patience to hear his full reply, seeing it is not worth trying to understand him. She'd at least have fun watching how far he'll get with his shallow, meaningless attitude of his. Dante told her to wait. They understood that she was distressed after that exchange, wanting to say something, but at that point, Pilot, who had been fiddling with the radio behind Saad, began shouting urgently, telling Saad that the palanquin was coming that way. Roger wanted to relax as the previous day was tough, wanting to head on over, so that they can at least relax on the way there. Jia Sichun told them that they were taking this one, reminding Honglu that he never thought twice about giving up things to others. Roger didn't like her attitude, wanting to settle this with rock, paper, scissors. Jia Sichun mockingly asked her if they could decide the next hierarchy of that, before she left. Gregor was disappointed at this, thinking that they were making friends out there. Then a thuggish man saw a group waiting for a palanquin, understanding that they must have a candidate among them that their client told them about. Sinclair saw that they were hostile-looking people coming their way. Urtis, understanding that Jiha wasn't the only one who was going after other candidates, advising Dante that they should take care of them before the next palanquin arrived. Dante agreed, and they took out the thugs that sought to kill them. Yeah, they were nothing they couldn't handle. More of the same that they fought the previous day, and yes, it clearly wasn't that long after the events of Chapter 7.5, Part 2, when they survived the night in the back streets. Yes, it was literally only hours have since then. After those syndicate thugs were taken out, Urtis informed Dante of this. Sinclair was relieved that there was an end to them this time. Those that attacked them when they first arrived in Hongguan were seemingly endless. Ishmael informed him that, at that time, they were walking into a shallow trap. Then Sinclair pointed out that Jia Sichun seemed pretty hurt by what was said by Honglu. Roger couldn't blame her, understanding why she felt betrayed. Remembering the stories that they heard about her and Honglu's family, imagine thinking that you finally found a potential ally in your family, only for him to pretty much stab you in the back in the last minute. Saad felt pretty awkward as well, even though she didn't feel exactly involved. No, you were just a messenger telling them of management's last-minute plans that killed the Alliance at the last minute. Ishmael wanted to move forward from there, asking where their escort was, not imagining H-Corp couldn't afford to send them guards along with the palanquin. Saad knew better, understanding District 8's distinct flavour of social Darwinism. As if his family loved each other enough to send escorts for their safety, they'd not hold a cutthroat ceremony like the family hierarchy evaluations. Might makes right, the strong prey on the weak. Saad, that's the city in general. They won't pay much attention if one of dozens of candidates was found dead somewhere. Honglu was silently observing this, and Saad apologized to him. She kept talking without thinking about how it sounded. She implied that Effie usually stopped her before she got that far. Honglu didn't take it personally, as she didn't say anything wrong. It took him a while to realize that other families weren't like that, but there's no reason to be upset by the way things were. Dante then heard an ominous metallic noise, asking what it was. Yisang heard the tolling of bells with a resonance unlike that of any other that he's heard, normally marked by their clarity. It's muddled, as if it tolls for ill fortune on the horizon. Honglu cheerfully heard it and saw it as a resounding reminder that he was home. It tolls periodically, heard from anywhere in Hongguan. Sard paused and then spoke more seriously about it. It was restructuring day. Ishmael didn't understand. It had already... Before she could finish that sentence, a brutal scene unfolded behind them. Ishmael asked if they were seeing this. The buildings were all starting to shift. Dante saw this too. They were all tethered to complicated rail networks, either rising or sinking into the ground. Massot observed movement from every building near them. Everything was changing. Yisang added that the localized shifting of structures that got rid of the middle, for now, that they observed the previous night was not as sweeping as that. Sal told them that what they saw last night must have been a prelude or premonition of restructuring day, nudging some buildings to their positions for a smoother overall redistribution of space. This was restructuring day proper. This surprised Ishmael that what they saw previously was just what happened before the main event. According to Sard, it's a remnant of a H-Corp that came before the current one. Yes, long before. It had been there for a while. They didn't know the nature or purpose of its singularity, but at that moment, they shift based on the current H-Corp's restructuring standards. They likely repurposed what they could, and then they heard a song. The lyrics of this song are, "The world's assembly shifts overnight, yet those who toiled and toiled have naught to fear. Is it not joyous to have a place to rest your feet tonight? To those who weren't availed of fortune, this is simply the reality to bear. Only choice is to retreat in silence, to accept your fate as one might. Await the coming month. Ponder how one might save their skin. How many shall plummet today, and how many shall remain? Hold on not to all things too tight, for you may lose sight of when to let go, and feign ignorance when you must take flight." Yisang understood the consequence of reassembly for the evicted. Is an endless plummet, seeing it as a terrible sight to behold, unable to do anything to help. Sinclair asked if this was another of H-Corp's idiosyncrasies. Sard wasn't sure, asking if other nests had their own measures of wealth. Yisang knew of one example. T-Corp makes use of time as currency, where the poorer members of society had the day compressed into 4 hours, at worst. The more well-off had a day compressed into as much as 3 days, causing them to hyper-accelerate. Sard confirmed this, as H-Corp's measure of wealth and currency is based on how much space someone owns, measured by the scale they call rooms. Yisang understood this to mean that the measure of one's space is the measure of one's wealth. Seld was happy that he understood that, adding that once every month, the worth of each person's labour and the quantity of their income is measured to determine how much space they're assigned. Gregor was shocked that they can kick him out of his home for no reason, asking what kind of ridiculous rule was that. Seld understood that for those that aren't local, like them, it might seem that way, but the calculations behind those redistributions, were meticulous. English isn't working for me today, is it? Right. The calculations behind those redistributions were meticulously designed and had been there for a while, so it's business as usual for the locals. Sinclair asked Honglu if he saw it happen in person as well, and Honglu did. He sometimes watched the cityscape from behind the railings of his room. It was far away, but it was clean. Well, it was seen clearly. Dante observed his tranquil and still expression as he spoke of this. It was as if he was watching featureless scenery pass by. Dagwan Guan was never too concerned about the restructuring days. They'd get more rooms some days, but never less. They never affected him. He only ever witnessed them as they happened beneath him. This frustrated Heathcliff, but he understood that there wasn't anything he could have done, but he just sat there and watched that? It was clear to Dante that he had been restraining himself quite a bit. Then Pilot saw another palanquin coming. Seld saw that as their ride. They'd chatted enough, so they need to get going. Ishmael was puzzled, asking if that was the palanquin that they were waiting for. Seld confirmed that it was, one large enough to comfortably seat all of them. The bearer of the palanquin asked if he was talking to Jia Bayu and his 12 honoured guests. Seld corrected him, saying that it was 13. Dante was confused as they didn't think that Seld was invited. This confused the bearer as he was told that Bayu's faction was just 12. This caused Seld to aggressively stride towards him, causing the palanquin bearer to shrink in fear. The bearer was telling her to slow down. She asked him if there were 12 people. Then she asked if Dante was a normal contributing member of a clan. Dante was surprised when she grabbed their shoulders and presented them before the bearer like they were a product. The bearer saw Dante as having a unique head, not something seen in Hongguan, asking if that's just a prosthetic in the shape of a clock. Seld asked who in their right mind would stick a clock where the head would be, even if money was tight. The bearer didn't think so, as there was much more versatile biomodifications available in Hongguan than that hack job. Seld saw this as right. She didn't think or even know what went down, but Dante felt on hard times where misfortune can befall an honest soul like them. The bearer saw Dante as one that got scammed, seeing whoever did that to them as a real scoundrel. Seld added that the clock isn't even on time, and Dante was barely conscious. All they can make is ticking noises, because they don't even have a mouth. Now that's just disrespectful. Dante certainly thought so, but they understood what she was trying to do. Although Dante wanted someone to tell her that they're getting dizzy. The bearer asked who could have done something so awful. Seld saw it as a real blessing that Honglu had such a kind-hearted soul. He couldn't walk past the timepiece emporium selling Dante as if they were a toy or a tool, so he picked them up to get their head replaced with something proper. Hongguan's got more than enough resources for something like that. The bearer confirmed that as long as you have the money, you can swap out the whole body. This caught Dante's attention. A new head for them. Sard concluded that it's why she told him that Bayou only had 12 people in his faction, including herself. The bearer saw her point, but he couldn't just... Sard then finished his sentence by saying, "Let them all board." She understands the situation, so she's offering a tiny token of appreciation, which was a bribe that she slipped into the bearer's pocket. The bearer felt conflicted, so Sard added that if word got out, things might get messy for both of them. That doesn't need to happen. Right? The bearer got the message, claiming to do so out of the goodness of his heart. What's a free ride for the downtrodden? Heathcliff wasn't fooled. He's only doing it out of the interest in the fatness of his wallet. Sal then told them to stop gossiping and get on the board. Dante asked if they're leaving Pinus here. He understood that this was what was needed, without Dante needing to be translated, telling them not to worry about him, wishing them a safe trip there. Yes, wishing them, rather. He has stuff to handle on the outside, and I suspect that those that are wise, they leave their homes before the restructuring to minimize the risk of them falling to their deaths, as I can see some falling from a great height in the background. Then, Yi Sang, once he and the others entered their transportation, noted the design was more like an extravagant limousine. Rodier was excited to find a bottle of champagne, asking if she can chug that. This angered Urtis, as this would be drinking while on a mission. Then Sald brought everyone to attention. She was all business now and told them that they needed to get to work. After a lengthy discussion, Sard said that Then Urtis alerted them something was going on outside. Not long after, a grating speaker rang out, followed by a worried voice of the bearer on the other end, telling them that they're under attack. Sard thought it was too easy, understanding that other candidates are trying to eliminate them, just in case. This doesn't surprise Dante either. They then proceeded to take out their attackers, while the bearer hid to stay out of the fighting. They were either common syndicate thugs or common fixers. Nothing that the damned dozen could not handle. And so, they wiped out those that threatened them, and their continued journey was what they had. While the slain bodies of their enemies were left to rot, at least until the sweepers devoured them that night. The palanquin bearer announced that they were entering Dagyuan 1 now. Dante saw that despite the troubles on the way, it seemed that they've managed to arrive at their destination mostly unhurt, or at least nothing too serious for Dante to heal. Dagyuan 1, Honglu's old home. Then Sald remembered that they were running out of time, asking Faust if she understood the most important part of her plan. Faust paused, but she mentioned that it was unlikely to be pleasant to behold. Yeah. And reminding her that the plan hinges on their patience. They have to remain calm and wait, even if they freak out and actively try to kill them. Faust understood that that's asking for a lot from them. Well, some of them anyway. They might panic and immediately order for the damned dozen to be executed on the spot. But it's unlikely that the person whose responsibility is to judge the next family hierarch of Hongguan will make such a hasty response. Salt confirmed this to be true. Everything is going to be fine as long as the decider has the capacity for patience. The mention of execution worried Heathcliff. Salt saw that they understood. She'll follow up with a subsequent contact once they've safely completed the first round of the evaluations. After that cryptic exchange, Sard gracefully leaped off the moving palanquin. As this happened, Heathcliff was speaking half asleep. Clearly she only wanted to stick around long enough to go over what they needed to know before the mission. They watched her growing smaller as they grew more distant. But they were more drawn to the scattered humans than that the restructuring day had evicted from their homes. They were trying to drag their broken bodies off the roads, sobbing and writhing. Sinclair saw this as horrible. He understood that there was nothing that he could do to help, but Moisant told him that this sense of futility and powerlessness will negatively impact the efficient performance of his professional obligations, recommending repeated exposure to this kind of experience to, desensitize him to that. Well, he's experienced this kind of disturbing imagery many times. It still doesn't get any easier. Sinclair then decided to change the subject by asking Honglu how he felt about going back home after so long. Honglu didn't know. Heathcliff told him that he didn't need to ask him. He knows that it can't be easy. As for him, he hesitated 1,000 times, wondering if he should just turn around and leave. What if he knocks on those gates, but He came to a suffocating stop, his voice trembling as he did so. This confused the others, but Dante understood why he stopped, as only himself and Dante remembered Catherine. Ishmael asked why he stopped in the middle of a... Dante then decided to distract them with the windows, telling them that they could swap out what's in front of them with other images. The scolding glare at them from her told them that this wasn't the time. Honglu cheerfully said that he remembered what happened each time one of them returned to a part of the city that held the memories. Happiness, anger, sorrow, joy. As they travelled, he remembered that they were all looking at sceneries only that only they could see. Roger awkwardly tried her best to crack jokes. Sinclair tried his best to hold back the welling tears, again and again. Yi Sang shut his eyes for a long time. Ishmael couldn't stop talking to herself while glaring down at the lake's surface. Heathcliff was scared and anxious, shaping his hair over and over again. Okay, I can see why he didn't speak of Don Quixote. She needed a little reminder of her struggle with her bloodthirst, even with Rocinante helping her to pass for human. Dante was surprised that he's been watching closely. Roger made this clear as well. Honglu then spoke of spring leaves, petals scatter, and all shall turn around to find the doors to which they belong in return forevermore. He thought that everyone had a small mound of petals that they gathered to themselves. Heathcliff failed to comprehend why anyone would collect something like that. Honglu told him that he simply hasn't discarded them yet. Dante noticed a burying, sinking shadow behind his transparent smile. Then a familiar light appears in front of them. They were about to experience one of Honglu's memories. This was because the golden bar was close and it was resonating with Honglu's fathoms. They watch the flower burial of mine and mock away. Who lays me to rest once I die? When spring passes, youth passes, as wrinkles share it all away. Flowers pass, people pass, and ignorant they remain to where they hie. Then Jia Bayu asks Dayu why she always recites those strange, complicated poems. There were many ways to remain young. Dayu answered by saying that they didn't see the snow in their hair to know that spring will pass. Jia Bayu asked why she was cleaning up those fallen petals, suggesting that she float them way downstream. She'll get dirt on her hands. Dayu asked if he was being wasteful. How will they hear the sound of falling rain once they sweep all the petals away? It's a remembrance of a rainy day, so she's going to treasure it. Besides, the beautiful blossoms will get so dirty in the stream if they let them float away, asking Bayu not to scatter all the petals from his embrace. Dante then asked, once they snapped out of it, if there was anyone that he missed there in Dayuanguan. He thought about it and told them that there wasn't. Sinclair was surprised at this, or rather by this, as his family was there, along with others that was important to him. Sinclair was probably thinking that, well, at least he has a family. His are now dead. Yi Sang was silent at this. Honglu assured them that, as long as he believed that they were doing well, there was no need for them to yearn. Well, no need for him to yearn to see them again. Dante chose their next words carefully, asking if he still treasured his flower petals. Honglu answered, no. He scattered them all the day he left, so now his rainy days are silent. Dante understood, and Honglu figured out that Dante saw that memory. Dante saw no reason to hide that. Honglu laughed at this, not surprised or angry. Sinclair was nervous, but he asked if there was anything to tell them about his parents. He remembered that he talked about his grandmother, asking what kind of people they were. Dante understood why he was asking this, as they were going to meet his family. Honglu told him that they were both wise in the ways of the world. His grandmother always treated him preciously, as did his parents. Just as Sinclair was about to nervously ask more, Honglu told them that they were almost there. He could see the garden. Dante saw this as a massive garden. Honglu told them that they still have some time before they get to the main buildings. He remembered the days when deer and hares would frolic out there in the garden. Ishmael could see herself taking a long walk around there. It would take over a day to cover the entire ground. Honglu usually lingered in his own room, seeing it as dangerous to stray too far from it. Dante asked why was this? Honglu listed the hazards. Strange danger, getting lost, getting targeted. It was also dark at night. Heathcliff didn't see this as a big deal, as children ran around, scraped their faces on branches, trip and eat on the pavement all the time. In District 20 perhaps, but not in that part of District 8. Honglu thought that he would run freely, but it's important to always be careful. When he was 5, someone had lathered a deadly poison on a random tree branch. This scared Rudyard. Honglu's younger brother liked to frolic like Heathcliff did, Sadly, he was running around a tree that had its branches lathered with poison. Don Quixote asked what happened after that. Hong Lu was sure that he got better. The Siren told him that he'd be fine after 100 nights of rest, seeing her as always so smart. He was sure that it happened exactly as she said. Hong Lu said that if you could survive by 13 years old, you could survive pretty much anything, even the outskirts. Yeah. I take that with extreme caution. Well, it's a hint that, besides the assassins sent occasionally, of how perilous the childhood of those that are well off are in Hongguan. Well, we've had hints of the particular flavour of social Darwinism that exists in District 8, but there's still more to find out. Until next time, hail the rabbit!